Hi, this is David Dickens, and today we are going to talk about whether or not you might have a required minimum distribution on a Roth IRA that you were lucky enough to inherit. I saw Walter earlier, so I'm going to go find him, and we'll get started.
It's another edition of Cover Your Assets KC. Walter Storholt here alongside David Dickens. As always, your president and wealth advisor of Creative One Advisors Group. Based in the KC area, but serving clients all over the place. You can find us online at creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com. Links and contact info in the description of today's show. So yes, RMDs on my inherited Roth, yes or no? You saw the title and know what we're diving into today. But before we get into all of that, David, I just hope you're doing well.
I am doing great. We discussed briefly on the last podcast that my wife and I were taking a 45th wedding anniversary trip. And we got back last Friday from France. We had
amazing.
We'd
that
been
was
there
the
briefly.
Secret, right? Where you guys were going.
Exactly. So we had been there briefly about 25 years ago, and with kids, and so this was just us. And had a great time. We were there for about 15, 16, 17 days, and saw a bunch of the countryside and a little bit of Paris, and it was a ton of fun.
Was it a surprise to her? Did you surprise her about the destination?
No.
Okay.
Neither my wife or I really dig on surprises, so
gotcha.
This was well planned. It was kind of fun, though. The last day we were there was my birthday, so I had a nice birthday dinner in Paris before we hit to our airport hotel and caught an early morning flight the next morning.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on the anniversary and a belated happy birthday to you as well. So,
thank you. It was all good.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And hey, you found me in the hallways, so we're all ready.
I knew I could find you.
That's right. We're all ready to go. Well, fantastic. Let's jump in here, David, and help folks understand RMDs and, in particular, talking about inherited Roths. We'll dive into all the details. As a starting point, we always like to give a little bit of context and foundation for folks, though. Let's just do that quick reminder of what is an RMD and set the foundation there.
Okay, so a required minimum distribution is something that, well, it starts at age 73. It is a specific percentage of your IRA or your 401k or your 403b or whatever that tax-deferred savings vehicle is that you used based on your employer. It's a specific percentage of that account value on the prior December 31st that you have to take out during the next year. And that percentage increases each year as you get older. So you got to take one at 73 and at 74, all the way up to age 116. You have to keep taking out that annual amount. And so the funny look with the question that somebody wasn't aware of sitting in your office says, well, why do I have to do that? And the answer is that the government has been waiting for years, letting you have this tax-deferred growth in your IRAs. And finally, tax law says that at age 73, you got to start taking money out. You don't have to take it all out. You don't have to take out more than that amount, although you're welcome to take out as much as you'd like. But there's a minimum amount you have to take out based on your age. Now, today's topic is about Roth IRAs. And since most everybody that listens to this podcast would know that your Roth IRA withdrawals are tax-free, there are no required minimum distributions from your Roth IRA for the original owner, because the Congress, the government, doesn't benefit by having you take that money out since there are no taxes that are owed on the withdrawals. So just to clarify, required minimum distributions relate to your IRAs and 401ks. Roth IRAs do not have required minimum distributions. The topic of today is, well, what if I inherit a Roth IRA from somebody? Does that change the situation? And that's what we want to unpack today.
Well, the title of today's episode gives away my next question, which is, well, this sounds like it's different for inherited IRAs or especially inherited Roths, evidently based on the title that you've come up with, yes or no, David. So let's dive into that element. Why the difference and what are the differences?
Yeah, so whether or not you have an annual required minimum distribution from an inherited Roth, because I just said you don't have one if it's your own Roth, it depends on what type of beneficiary you are. So as we've laughed about over the years, every time Congress piles on a new law, they don't change anything from the past. It just adds more complexity. So the Secure Act created, past, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, created two distinct categories of beneficiaries. And that determines what you have to do with your inherited Roth IRA. So the first one is called an eligible designated beneficiary. And those people are, for instance, surviving spouse, minor children of the account owner, not minor grandchildren, but minor children, until they turn 21. If your beneficiary happens to be disabled or chronically ill, or any individual that is not more than 10 years younger than you, the IRA owner. Those are eligible designated beneficiaries, and they have choices. Non-eligible designated beneficiaries are everybody else. So once we know what type of beneficiary you are, well, then we know what the rules are.
Oh, excellent. And so what are the rules, David, once we've determined which type we are?
Okay. So it's easier if I start with the non-eligible designated beneficiaries. So for everybody that's not one of those 4 or 5 types of people that I named, basically everybody else, the 10-year rule applies. And all that means is by the end of the 10th year that you inherited this Roth IRA, you have to have it cleaned out. The balance has to be 0. There are no taxes owed at any time on these withdrawals, but you can't have it for more than 10 years. So there are no annual required minimum distributions. You can let it ride. It'll grow tax-free for all of those 10 years. But at the end of the 10th year, it's got to be emptied out. So those are non-eligible designated beneficiaries. If you happen to be an eligible designated beneficiary, then you have a choice. You can either abide by the 10-year rule, no annual required distributions, the account balance has to be 0 at the end of year 10, or you can kind of harken back to the stretch IRA rules that used to exist before, I'm going to call it 2019, but it was a while ago. And all that means is that you can stretch out your inherited Roth IRA over your lifetime, but in that case, you do have a annual required minimum distribution, and that's based on your age as the beneficiary. So that could be very valuable if if you happen to inherit one, you're the spouse, you inherit it over, maybe you're 50 or maybe you're 70 or 80 or 60, but you feel like you have a relatively long life ahead of you. Well, you might have a reason to want to let that continue to grow tax-free and only take out a required minimum distribution, not clean it out over 10 years. So various reasons for various types of beneficiaries, but those are the two choices that you would have if you're an eligible designated beneficiary.
Okay, excellent. So we've talked about what those RMDs are, how it's different for the inherited world and that side of things, and these rules. How about an example, David, to drive all of this home? Where have you seen this in practice?
So this actually is the reason I thought of this as a topic was because I dealt with it with a client over the last about 4 or 5 weeks ago. They had inherited an IRA from their parent. And so this is not their example, but it's a pretty streamlined example that will help, I think, identify who is who amongst the beneficiaries. So in this example, Sam, fictional character, died, and he was 86. And he left his Roth IRA to 3 beneficiaries. He had never taken a penny out of this Roth IRA because he didn't need the money, and he wanted to let it grow tax-free until his beneficiaries arrived. And it's a fantastic inheritance vehicle because, again, it's tax-free when you take the money out. So Sam dies at 86. His wife is 84. She gets a third of this Roth IRA. They have a close family friend that's been real supportive of them over the years. He's 78. And then their daughter, only child, their daughter's 56. So what are the rules that apply to each of these people? Well, his wife is an eligible designated beneficiary, and so she gets the choice. She doesn't need the money either. She chooses the lifetime stretch because she'd ultimately like to leave it as big as possible to ends up being their only real beneficiary, which would be that daughter. The close family friend, on the other hand, He has less money, less resources, and frankly, he's kind of interested in making use of that money, not planning on leaving it behind. So he's going to choose the 10-year rule. He can take out as much as he wants in any year. He doesn't have to wait till 10 years, but it has to be gone at the end of 10 years. The reason he gets the choice is he's not, obviously not a spouse, but he's less than 10 years younger than Sam, who has just died. So he meets the definition of an eligible designated beneficiary. The daughter, on the other hand, she's 56. And so she's obviously more than 10 years younger than her dad. She's not a minor anymore. So she only has one choice, and that is the 10-year rule applies to her. In this situation, I didn't make up any fancy ideas about what her financial situation was. But she gets the choice, just like the close family friend is choosing. She can take all the money out on day one. She can take all of the money out at the end of the 10th year, or sprinkle it out anytime she wants to take money out over that 10-year period. In each of these three beneficiaries' case, none of the money that comes out is taxable. It's all tax-free because Sam took care of the taxes when he first put the money in decades ago. So hopefully that's a pretty clear, clean, quick little example of the different beneficiary types and who gets a choice and who doesn't.
Makes a lot of sense. David, any final thoughts about today's topic, or any action steps somebody should take if they're a little bit more curious about this? I guess if somebody thinks there may be an inheritance coming down the pike, or thinking about passing on money to the next generation, these might be themes that are central to their line of thinking right now.
Yeah, exactly. I've never sat in a room with somebody that goes, you mean I inherited money? So it's always a delightful surprise, whether it's an IRA that ends up being taxable to them as they take the money out, or a Roth. But if you are getting up there in age and you're thinking about estate planning, maybe you've got children who are doing great, and you say, my tax bracket is a little lower. I may as well pay these taxes now on my IRA and maybe do a Roth conversion or a series of them to get that money into a tax-free state, such that when your heirs inherit it, well, they inherit it tax-free. Thinking through these types of things as you get into your late 60s, 70s, and 80s, just to see if there's a tweak to your estate plan that you might want to make, that's a good discussion to have with somebody. If we can help you with that, terrific. Give us a call. If you already have an advisor, bring it up in your next semi-annual meeting. And if you're a really good do-it-yourselfer, do a quick Google search and see what you find out. Either way, looking at it now is a really good it's a good thing to do. Make sure you got the beneficiaries lined up the way you want them, because obviously once you're gone, whatever you had on that beneficiary piece of paper is what's going to stick.
Yeah, no one doing that.
Exactly.
In multiple ways. Very good, David. Thanks for all the details on this one today. If you have questions for David and the team at Creative One Advisors Group, it is very easy to reach out. You can call 913-317-1414 or go online to creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com, and there's lots of ways to interact with the team online. We've got links and contact information in the description of today's show, so you can find all of that easily. And David, thank you so much for the help today. We appreciate it.
Hey, that was fun. We'll do it again in 2 weeks.
Sounds like a plan. Come back and join us for the next installment of Cover Your Assets KC. Until then, take care.
Creative One Advisors Group has been proudly serving families in the Kansas City metropolitan area since 2003. Over the years, we've evolved to help meet the needs of our clients, becoming KC Financial Advisors in 2010. In November 2021, our advisory business was acquired by Creative One Wealth LLC, C1W, and in January 2025, we officially adopted the name Creative One Advisors Group. Previous episodes were recorded under the branding of KC Financial Advisors, which has since been rebranded as Creative One Advisors Group. Any references to KC Financial Advisors should now be understood as referring to Creative One Advisors Group. Investment advisory services are offered through Creative One Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. Creative One Advisors Group is a DBA of Creative One Wealth. Insurance services are offered through licensed insurance professionals. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with the fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interest first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Creative One Wealth is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and does not provide tax, legal, or estate planning advice or services. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Neither asset allocation nor diversification can ensure a profit or guarantee against losses. None of the information contained herein shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit any offer to buy a security or any insurance product. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. The Creative One family of companies includes Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Creative One Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor, and Creative One Marketing, LLC. These companies share common ownership. Additional details regarding advisory services are available in our firm's ADV Part 2A and Form CRS.